Im Frühjahr 2015 hatten wir die Gelegenheit, eine außergewöhnliche Persönlichkeit in Zürich anzutreffen. Rachel Fraenkel ist Dozentin für jüdische Studien für Frauen in Israel. Letzten Sommer wurde ihr 16-jähriger Sohn Naftali auf dem Schulweg mit 2 anderen Teenagern von Hamas-Terroristen entführt und ermordet. Nach 18-tägiger Suche wurden die Leichen der 3 Teenager gefunden. Während dieser Zeit entwickelte sich Rachel Fraenkel zu einer nationalen Stimme der Hoffnung. Mit ihrer Ausstrahlung vereinte sie die israelische Gesellschaft. Ein ganzes Land betete für die Rückkehr und das Leben der 3 Schüler. Die aus Wien stammenden Großeltern von Rachel Fraenkel wurden durch den Mut des Schweizer Grenzpolizisten Paul Grüninger von den Nazis gerettet. Heute führen wir mit Rachel Fraenkel in Zürich ein persönliches Gespräch über ihren Umgang mit der Tragödie, ein Kind durch einen Terrorakt verloren zu haben.
Can you tell us what your connection is to Switzerland?
Actually, I was here this summer in Geneva for about a day speaking to the UN Human Rights Council. But before that, my father was born in Vienna. And around the Anschluss, when they wanted to escape, and there was a Swiss clerk that kind of changed my grandfather's merchandise visa into a family visa and saved all the children. And so they escaped through Switzerland. They got to Paris, they left the children in Paris, escaped with the baby to London. And later on, 6 months later, my 10-year-old father and 5-year-old aunt went on the Kindertransport to England, and later from there to the United States. They spent 10 years in America, and then my father came to live in Israel. I was born in Israel many years later.
Can you tell us something about Naftali that exemplifies who he was?
Naftali was mostly 16 years old. You know, about 16 years old, mostly what you say is the potential, everything they could have been. He was extremely gifted, and the kid, you know, is good in school, fights with his sisters, very musical, plays guitar, sings in choirs. He had an eye for people that were new or insecure, and he always had this tendency to find them and to bring them in with game and sports and make people feel comfortable. It's just my boy.
Almost a year has gone by now since Naftali and the other 2 boys, Gil'ad and Eyal, were abducted and murdered. Can you share with us what you personally and what your family has gone through in this year?
It's weird. Sometimes it feels like 5 minutes ago, and sometimes it feels like 1,000 years have gone by. There was the time in the summer of the 18 days of search and hope and optimism, and then there was a period of mourning, and then there's start a life, a new life, and with the children and going back to work. And also things that started from this. A lot of people took interest in our story. Jews, non-Jews, Israelis, people from, you know, what we call the diaspora, and there's a lot of connections were made, and a lot of people that want to take the sweet out of the bitter, and do good from this tragedy. It's learning how to live again, and choosing life and choosing joy and making room for the pain and the loss, but not letting it take over the whole picture.
Last year, you literally led a country and a people through a national trauma. Where did you get your strength from?
I didn't feel like I'm leading anybody. I felt like I was surrounded by so many good people that were reaching out to us and hugging us and helping us, you know, pick ourselves up. When there was hope to find the boys alive, people were going out of their way to, you know, even to bring us to Geneva and to speak at the Human Rights Council and to cry out that children should be out of this horror game, and people speaking to in their parliaments and all over the world. And I feel we get so much support, and so much good has come out of people. It's also a matter of choices. We at the time we were very focused on things that we thought could do, something real to save our son. And when the bad news arrived, it was focusing on living again. So.
How do you feel in your more private or darker moments?
I feel that I can feel pain. I don't have to become my pain. I can feel sorrow. I don't have to become my sorrow. In my inner landscape, there's so many, shades and colors of feelings and powers and blessings. So I think sorrow and sadness, they're not only legitimate, they're part of life, but depression is dangerous for me. So I can choose to take this, bucket of black paint and spill it all over my life, but that would be ungrateful and stupid. So in the darker places, I let myself cry, I let myself weep. I have a 6-year-old daughter that said, Ima, is it true that you still put on your makeup only when you get to work so you can cry on the way? And for me it was important to hear her say that, because I wouldn't want her to think that it's business as usual. So I said, Nama, it's not that every day the whole way I cry, but I reserve the right to cry. And I feel like sometimes people need permission. They need permission to be sad, and they need permission to be happy, as if they're not allowed. And it's okay. It's life is the full spectrum.
What were your thoughts when you heard last year that an Arab-Israeli boy had been killed brutally by Israeli Jews as an act of vengeance?
At first we just heard of the event, and we thought that it can't have anything to do with this. We couldn't imagine anything like that. And 2 days later, the police came to our home and said, this is an act of hate. And though one of the persons wasn't mentally stable, but he managed to get a couple more people that did this horrifying act with him. And we were upset and angry and so horrified by this act. It was truly, nobody in my most distant vicinity wasn't any less horrified than we just couldn't stand the idea. And we tried to reach out to the family. My brother-in-law spoke to Mohammed Abu Khdir's father. The first thing we did when we got up from the customary shiva, the way we mourn, was to come out and speak out that this is horrendous, and that there's no difference between the blood of a 16-year-old Arab or a 16-year-old Jew, and the basis of living in this country is being moral. On the social level, I think our society dealt with this the right way. I mean, they brought them to justice, and they went on trial, and they're sitting in jail, and everybody was, condemning this. It's not what I saw in other cases. The mother of the murderers of our children said she'd be proud of them until Judgment Day. Even the Abu Khdir family deny that our story ever happened. They said to the BBC that it's all a conspiracy. So I don't judge them, because they went through hell, and I know that hell. But I wish I could say I wouldn't want to experience what they experienced. I know that, so I don't want to be judgmental. But I think it's horrendous, and I think as a society we're still in a place I can be proud of, that we take care of the evil and we try to fight it.
I'm wondering if peace is actually achievable, and you had the opportunity to speak to Palestinians on the one hand and to Israelis on the other hand. What would you say firstly to the Palestinians?
It's not even a matter of what I say to who. During the time of the kidnapping, and later in the in the morning, we spoke to, within the state of Israel, to Druze, to Bedouins, to Israeli Arabs, and later on to Palestinians from the Gush Etzion area. And we found language to share, because it was the language of compassion and understanding. Yet I'm not naive. The situation in our area is extremely complex, and I truly believe there are no easy answers. I wish we would all choose life and not go for some of our, leaders and others that offer us other choices. But I'm really not naive about this situation, and I think we all need to be very patient and to breathe deeply and to have resilience. When I raise my children, and these are kids that their loved brother was kidnapped and murdered, I still make sure I don't want them to grow up on hatred. So, not every Arab is a terrorist, and not first they should see people as people. On the other hand, I'm not in the tradition of forgiving evil people for the evil they did. So whoever is responsible for terrorist acts should be taken care of, and life should go on in a happy, joyful way.
Rachel, thank you so much for giving Audiatur this interview, and all the best to you and your family.